Model Millionaire, written by Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde and his Model Millionaire, the story all about very important social matters, society, social status means rich, poor, all about these things. And there is one term, the term is romance. We will find out one line, the line is romance is the privilege of the rich. To make it worse, he is in love. This is the famous speech and it has become a proverb. What does this mean? It is narrated here. Model Millionaire, Oscar Wilde. এই ব্যাপারটা আমি একটা লিখে ফেলেছি, the people with high moral ethics succeed. People who have moralities, ethics in life, they will succeed. What does it mean? The story is all about Oscar Wilde's The Model Millionaire is a story about Erskine, an impoverished but kind-hearted young man in love with Laura Martin. Laura's father will not allow them to marry unless Wbbse earns £10,000. Wbbse's act of giving his last sovereign to an old beggar results in a surprising reward. What is this surprising reward? And who is Laura Martin? Who is Wbbse Erskine? And who gifted Wbbse this £10,000? It is narrated here, but remember this term moral ethics. At the same time, kind-hearted young men like Wbbse Erskine. And remember the important thing, kindness, generosity, all these are virtues, great virtues of human being. The following persons have ethics in life, like Wbbse Erskine, handsome, popular and good-natured, but hopeless at business. Everything was with Wbbse Erskine, but he was failure in life because he was unemployed. He survives on a meager allowance of £2,200 a year from an old aunt. It was only granted to him and he was spending his life in this way. Another character, Alan Trevor. Alan Trevor is the friend of Wbbse Erskine, and another character is Baron Hausbach. Alan Trevor, who was Alan Trevor? Alan Trevor, a talented painter and Wbbse's best friend who enjoys painting beggars. Beggars, this term, it is very important in this story. Baron Hausbach, one of the richest men in Europe, who disguises himself as a beggar for Trevor's art. That is, Alan Trevor would be drawing, would be painting of Baron Hausbach, richest man, and I think you will find out when you will read the story. Baron Hausbach, a millionaire, you know, very rich people, rich person, and Alan Trevor, such a good painter, would be painting this richest man to be a beggar. How interesting. I have told you moral ethics of Wbbse Erskine, the first character, then Alan Trevor, then Baron Hausbach. They have their moral ethics, morality. They have kindness, they have love, they have passion. Not only Baron Hausbach, who was a rich person, but Alan Trevor and Wbbse Erskine. At the same time, we will find out Laura Martin. Laura Martin was also very kind and generous. It will be proved in the story. Now, what is the plot of the story? Yui visits Alan Trevor in his studio and finds him painting a racked, wretched-looking old beggar. Feeling deeply sympathy, Yuji gives the beggar the largest coin he has in his pocket. And what was it? It was a sovereign. Currency in their place, even though it leaves him penniless for the day. That was, Yuji was very poor. He would be without any money, without any sovereign. When he would give this last sovereign to the beggar, I asked Ronit, who was the beggar here? Ronit, it is written here, disguise himself a beggar, Baron Husbach. Okay, after
So
this
Baron
there is,
Hosbach is the. So he is the beggar, right?
correct. Actually, he is millionaire. Now, what is the revelation after this? Revelation after Hughie leaves, Alan reveals beggar's true identity. The beggar is actually Baron Husbach, an eccentric multi-millionaire. Remember, multi-millionaire, very rich person. Hughie is horrified at having patronized one of the richest men in Europe. But Alan reassures him that Baron was highly amused with his generosity of Yui. Yui gave him a sovereign because Yui thought that this beggar was the best painting and the most suitable beggar for painting for Alan Trevor. Therefore, Yui took pity on this beggar and gave him this sovereign. It was the revelation was this beggar was none but Baron Husbach, a millionaire. After this, the reward. What is the reward here? A few days later, a representative
Sir,
from
can you
Baron,
scroll down?
scroll down. Are you writing here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right, hurry up. Reward. A few days later, a representative from Baron Husbach visits UM. Instead of returning the sovereign, the Baron sends Hughie a check for £10,000 as a wedding gift, along with a note that reads, a wedding present to Hughie Erskine from an old beggar. That the old beggar who was there in the studio of Alan Trevor. Now, what is the theme of the story? The theme of the story is appearance versus reality. You know appearance of the beggar and what is the reality of this beggar. The beggar appears destitute and miserable, but is actually immensely wealthy. Multimillionaire, already told. This underscores the idea that social status does not define a person's true character. Very important. First of all, I have told you this one. It is the main theme of the story. Now, true generosity, I have told you, whenever you are generous, it is your great virtue. Virtue means good quality of a person. True generosity. Yui gives away his only coin without expecting anything in return. Yui Erskine, when he went to his friend's studio, he found this beggar and he took pity and gave this coin, the last coin. He did not think all about himself. The story highlights that genuine kindness is a virtue. Again and again I am telling you, all these are the good qualities, all these are the great ethics, high moral ethics of a person. The ideal millionaire, the Baron, demonstrate that millionaires should not be defined by mere greed. That is, we think millionaires are very greedy, but here it is opposite, but by generosity and the willingness to reward virtue. Virtue, that is the good quality of this Baron Husbach, who was very much generous and he only wanted well-being of the person. In our society, we only see people are very much rich, people are very much poor, and we always find the difference. But there is no difference in art. When there is art, when there is art in your mind is free, your mind is generous, your mind is kind, and there you will find no difference, only human being, and you will be willing to help others. That is willingness to reward virtue. Your virtue will be a good, the greatest reward in this world. So to be generous, to be virtuous, we can follow the story. What is the story there? Now I will scroll down. Story all about model millionaire. First of all, it is written there, unless one is wealthy, there is no use in being a charming fellow. Very important sentence. This is the first sentence of your story. Unless one is wealthy, there is no use of being a charming fellow. Charming fellow, you know, it is only appearance. And wealthy, a person may possess wealth. So unless you are wealthy, unless you possess wealth, there is no use of to be charming, to be handsome, to be beautiful. And in this way, romance is the privilege of the rich. First of all, I told you this one. Romance is the privilege of the rich. This is the only common thought of our society. Romance is the privilege of the rich. The rich means only the rich people. They can enjoy, that is their privilege, that they can enjoy romance, they can enjoy love, they can enjoy art, they can enjoy any aesthetic feeling. Only the poor will be deprived. The poor cannot possess such good quality, not the profession of the unemployed. Therefore, we have come to know who is unemployed there. It is narrated one by one. The poor should be practical and prosaic. That is, poor should be practical. They should only think whatever practical, whatever in reality, and they will be in this way dull. Prosaic means dull. It is better to have a permanent income than to be fascinating. It is another important sentence. That is, you will have a permanent income than to be fascinating. That fascinating means then it may be your passion, then that you can enjoy your life in your own way, that is your freedom. Nobody thinks about this. Everybody thinks that I will have one permanent income, I will enjoy my life. That is same track like the train, they will be going forward and backward in the same track. It is only the moral thoughts, that is the society thinks about this one. But Oscar Wilde wants to tell us just opposite. There are the great truths of modern life which Huey Erskine never realized, because Huey is poor. Poor Huey, intellectually, we must admit he was not of much importance, because he was unemployed. He never said a brilliant or even an ill-natured thing in his life. That is, he never showed or never pretended that he was brilliant, and he never scolded, never rebuked anyone else, that he never used any ill-natured or never used any bad words that can hurt people. But then he was wonderfully good looking with his crisp brown hair, his clear cut profile. Remember it, clear cut profile. Good looking, that is clear cut profile with all the suitable necessary documents, academic qualification, whatever needed. His grey eyes, everything was with this handsome man. He is none but Huey Erskine, but he was unemployed. This was the problem. This was the difficulty in our society, and society never allows this type of person in any job anywhere else. He was as popular with men as he was with women. and he had every accomplishment except that of making money, that he could not earn money. It was his fault. And society never allows anyone else, whoever has no money. That is, the poor person cannot get any scope, any chance, any establishment. His father had bequeathed him his cavalry sword and a history of the Peninsular War in 15 volumes. That is, what did Huey Erskine possess? What did he won? All these are only the two things that Huey Erskine possessed: cavalry sword and another book, the volume in 15 volumes. This one only possessed by Huey Erskine. Huey hung the first over his looking glass, but put the second on a shelf between Ruff's Guide and Bailey's magazine, and lived on 200 a year that an old aunt allowed him. It was only the condition of this person, the young person. He had tried everything. He had gone to the stock exchange for 6 months. But what was a butterfly to do among bulls and bears? All these are the only terms used in stock marketing. And he understood nothing all about such job, such activities in stock exchange. He had been a tea merchant for a little longer, but had soon tired of Pico and Sachong. All these are only name of good tea of good quality, or maybe very famous trade. Then he tried selling dry sherry. It is type of sherry is type of grapes that may be drink may be prepared from this one. He also tried it. That is, business failed. That is, UE failed in his business. UE was a failure in business also. That did not answer. The sherry was little too dry. Ultimately, he became nothing, a delightful, ineffectual young man with a perfect profile and no profession. He had no profession, but he had a perfect profile. That is, he got no job and no money. To make matters worse, he was in love. First of all, I told you this one. This is added to the first one. This one, romance is the privilege of the rich, and to make oh, to make matters worse, he was in love. It has become a proverb. It has become a proverb, that is, the person was poor, and to make his situation, to make his status worse, he was in love. That is, love is only the privilege of the rich. Whenever one person is poor, he cannot enjoy love. I have told you earlier, love in this sense, it is generous quality, kindness. Love means here kindness, that is the good virtue, pure love of a person, true love of a person. The girl he loved was Laura Martin, the daughter of a retired colonel who had lost his temper and his digestion in India, and he had never found either of them again. Laura adored him. I have told you, with good ethics, you will find here, Laura adored him. That is, Laura liked this person, liked this unemployed person, liked your skin, and he was ready to kiss her shoestring. Look how they were dedicated to each other. That is, whenever a person is rich, he can enjoy love. Whenever a person is poor, he cannot enjoy love. But it is not true. Oscar Wilde wants to teach us. Oscar Wilde wants to criticize this thought of the society. They were the handsomest couple in India, London, and had not a penny piece between them. The colonel was very fond of Huey, but would not hear of any engagement. That is, colonel father of Laura Martin. That is, Colonel Martin did not want that They would be in their engagement until what? You will find here. Come to me, my boy, when you have got 10,000 pounds. That was the demand. That is good ethics. The father had the good ethics. I think it is also ethics. That is, the father wanted to marry off his daughter with a person who must have at least 10,000 pounds. It is also a good quality of a father. It is also a good quality of a daughter. Everything is narrated here because it is a mirror of our society, and we will see about it. He used to say, and he will look very glum on those days and had to go to Laura for consolation. That is, quite unhappy person usually would be unhappy whenever Colonel Martin would be saying he could marry Laura if he could have 10,000 pounds. That was the condition. How nice it is. One morning, as he was on his way to Holland Park, where the matrons lived, that is the matrons, you know, Laura Matron and her father, he dropped in to see a great friend of his, Alan Trevor. We have come to know Alan Trevor, a good friend. Trevor was a painter. Indeed, few people escape that nowadays. But he was also an artist. Artists are rather rare. Mark it. Mark it, it is very important. Artist, that is, I have told you, only the rich people can enjoy arts, whatever aesthetic feeling is there. Personally, he was a strange, rough fellow with a freckled face and a red, racked beard. However, when he took up the brush, he was a real master. We have come to know here another ethics of this master, ethics of this painter. Whenever the painter would be taking his brush, he would be the real master. That is, there is ethics, there is great virtue, there is good qualities of this great person. His pictures were regardlessly sought after. That was the famous person, famous painter. He had been very much attracted by Huey at first, but must be acknowledged entirely on account of his personal charm. Yes, personal charm. I have told you it was only appearance, but here we have come to know another personal charm of Huey, who is attracted Alan Trevor, his great friend. The only people a painter should know, he used to say, are people who are wit and beautiful, people who are an artistic pleasure took at look at and an intellectual repose to talk to. That is, whenever person will be without any job, person will be dull, they will be only praising the beauty. They enjoys or they understand nothing all about the art. It is only social status. That is, society thinks that the status of a rich man is, of a rich person is to enjoy art. Men who are dandies and women who are darling rule the world. Remember this. It is also another good saying, because it is only appearance. At least they should do so. It is only the speech of Oscar Wilde. That is, Oscar Wilde tells us people who are dandies, that is men who are dandies and women who are darling, they should rule the world. That is the social status. However, after he got to know Huey better, he liked him quite as much for his bright, buoyant spirits. Buoyant spirit, that is free spirits. Spirit of Huey, always free, always generous. He is generous, reckless nature, and had given him the permanent entry to his studio. To his studio means the studio of Alan Trevor. That is, Huey Erskine can enter Alan Trevor's studio now and then. When Huey came in, he found Trevor putting the finishing touches to a wonderful life-size picture of a beggar man. Life-size. What is the description of this beggar? Remember it. Nice description here. You will find how Alan Trevor painted this beggar man. You will find it. The beggar himself was standing on a raised platform on a corner of the studio. The corner of the studio was there, and there was the beggar standing on this platform. He was a wizened old man with a face like wrinkled parchment and a most piteous expression. Over his shoulders was flung a coarse brown cloak, all tears and tatters. His thick boots were patched and cobbled, and with one hand he leaned on a rough stick, while the other he held with the other he held out his battered hat for arms. It is the best description, I think, that can attract, that can demand, that can only tell us to give the beggar nothing but alms. And you know, whenever one person like you are skin, who was very kind, he must be taking pity. That was not exception. It happened here, we have come to know. What an amazing model, whispered Yui as he shook hands with his friend. An amazing model? Shouted Trevor at the top of his voice. I should think so. Such beggars as he are not to be met with every day. That is, this beggar has become a very rare one. A Turvel Morchar, maybe it Monchar or Morchar, a living Valkois, my stars, what an itching Rembrandt would have made him. It is only the description of good painters who could paint and they have become model in their painting. That has okay. It is only the description that the person gave only all about good painters. They could paint and their paintings are model. It is only told. After this, poor old chap, said Yui, how miserable he looks. But I suppose to you painters, his face is his fortune. That is, Yui only took pity on this beggar man, and to his face he thought that his face was his fortune. That is appearance again. I have told you only appearance can deceive. Appearance may be impostor. It can deceive. It can cheat anyone else. Certainly, replied Trevor. You don't want a beggar to look happy, do you? That is, nobody wants a beggar will look happy. Because beggar is beggar. He will begging. That is, arts, romance, love, passion, fashion, all these are only the privilege of the rich. Already first I have told you. After this, how much does a model get for sitting? Asked Yui, as he found himself a comfortable seat on a divan. Now, Yui sat on the divan, sat on his seat in the studio and asked how much a model gets for sitting throughout the painting. Whenever Alan would be painting, the model will be sitting there. So how much does this model get? It was the question. That is, Huey was very much kind, very much moved, totally moved by this painting, and he wanted this beggar, this model would get something best. And it was only the answer. Alan Trevor gave him a shilling an hour. Per hour, Alan Trevor would be giving 1 shilling to the model. Shilling, you know, currency, like money, paisa. And how much do you get for your picture, Alan? Oh, for this I get 2,000 pounds. Guineas. Painters, poets and physicians always get guineas. That is, no pounds, only guineas. Like 10,000, 1 crore, these are only the difference. Well, I think the model should have a percentage, cried Yui laughing. They work quite as hard as you do. That is, Alan Trevor is doing hard work. At the same time, the model is also doing hard work because the model is sitting there throughout the painting, throughout the time. Nonsense, nonsense. Why? Look at the trouble of laying on the paint alone and standing all day long at one's easel. That is, Alan Trevor thinks that he was doing the job which was only most difficult, and the model was sitting there, it was not difficult. So it was nonsense to give this model a percentage of his own earn. It was not fair. It was only thought by Alan Trevor. After this, it's all well, Huey, for you talk, but I assure you that there are moments when art almost attain the dignity of manual labor. Come to this point. Art will get dignity. Dignity, you know, it is respect, power, whatever you know. And manual labor, it is the manual labor of Alan Trevor. Alan Trevor is drawing, Alan Trevor is painting. So it is the privilege of this person, it is the privilege of art that dignity must be there. That Alan Trevor wants dignity, art needs dignity. But you must not chatter, I am very busy, smoke a cigarette and keep quiet. It was instructed to Huey Erskine by Alan Trevor. After some time, the servant came in and told Trevor that the frame maker wanted to speak to him. Now, what happened then? Don't run away, Huey, he said. As he went out, I'll back in a moment. The old beggar man took advantage of Trevor's absence to rest for a moment on a wooden bench that was behind him. It is the only turning point of this story, that Alan left the studio and there were only Huey and the beggar man. He looked so forlorn, so lonely, forlorn means lonely, and wretched, very poor condition, that Huey could not help pitying him. Good quality, I have told you, virtue, and felt in his pocket to see what money he had. All he could find was a sovereign and some coppers. Poor old fellow, he thought to himself, he wants it more than I do, but it means no handsome for a fortnight. And he walked across the studio, slipped the sovereign into the beggar's hand. That is, he found nothing, only he wanted to give this sovereign. The old man started, and a faint smile flitted across his withered lips. Thank you, sir, he said, thank you. Then Trevor arrived, and Eugene took his leave, blushing a little at what he had done. He spent, why did Eugene blush here? Because he helped someone who was in need. Huey was so simple, Huey was so kind, he thought he had done a great job that day, because he helped a beggar. He helped a beggar by giving his last paisa, his last money, only one sovereign. He spent that day with Laura, got a charming scolding for his extravagance, that is, he did not have anything else, yet he was helping, it was extravagance, and had to walk home. That is, he had to walk home, he had no money. That night he strolled into the Palette Club about 11 o'clock and found Trevor sitting by himself in the smoking room, drinking hook and sledger. Alan, did you get the picture finished all right? He said, as he lit his cigarette. Finished and framed, my boy, answered Trevor. And by the way, you have made a conquest. What is the conquest here? Very interesting. That old model you saw is quite devoted to you. I had told him all about you. Who are you, where you live, what your income is, what prospects you have, everything told. That was only informed to Huey by Alan Trevor. What he had done and what Alan Trevor had done with this millionaire. My dear Alan, cried Huey, I shall probably find him waiting for me when I go home. I ask you, why does Huey think this? It is very interesting. Why does Huey think this, that the man, this beggar man, will be waiting for him? Who can tell me? Why does you think this? Who can answer me? Himogno?
Yes, sir.
Why does you think this? He thinks that the beggar will be waiting for him. Why does he think this?
I think that Huey thinks such thoughts that the beggar might be waiting for him, as Trevor told him that the beggar has interest in Huey.
Actually, not only impressed, the beggar was impressed with Huey, but Huey was simple. I have told you he was very simple. He could not think, he did not know he was a millionaire. He only thought that this beggar would be waiting for him for some alms again. That Huey will give him some alms again because the beggar was very poor. But of course, you are only joking. Poor old wretch, I wish I could do something for him. Look, it is already narrated. I think it is dreadful that anyone should be so miserable. Who is here so miserable? Ronit?
The beggar.
Correct, very good. The beggar is so miserable. I have got heaps of old clothes at home. That we always help the beggar with our old clothes. Do you think he would care for any of them? Why? His rags were falling to bits. That is, the wretched condition, the bad condition of the poor man, of the beggar, attracted Huey, and Huey was only a simple man that he again thought that he would be helping him. But he looks splendid in them, said Trevor. I would not paint him in a frock coat for anything. That is, Alan could not understand what he was telling. He thought that he was giving such things for his cloth. What you call rags, I call romance. Look how interesting. Whenever there is the condition of these rags and romance, appearance and the thought of the person. What seems poverty to you is picture next to me. However, I will tell him of your offer. Alan, said Huey generously. You painters are a heartless lot. An artist's heart is his head, replied Trevor. And besides, our business is to realize the world as we see it. Look, world as we see it, and not to reform it as we know it. That is, reformation of our society is very far away from one person. Now it is only narrated here, a Chakan sans métier, and now tell me how Laura is. It is only narrated to go to distract the attention. The old model was quite interested in her. You don't mean to say you talked to him about her, said Eugene. Certainly I did. That is the exchange. He knows all about relentless colonel, the lovely Laura, and the $10,000, 10,000 pounds, sorry, 10,000 pounds. You told that old beggar all my